All right, today we're diving into a true classic, Erich Fromm's The Art of Loving. Now, this isn't a simple how-to guide. It's a book that fundamentally challenges how we think about one of the most important things in our lives. Fromm kicks things off with a question that, let's be honest, hits pretty close to home. Just think about it for a second. We start almost no other part of our lives with such huge hopes and wild expectations. And yet, almost nothing else seems to fail quite as often and as painfully as love. So, what's the deal? Well, according to Fromm, the whole problem starts with a massive misunderstanding. See, most of us treat love like it's a matter of chance, something you just stumble upon. You fall into it if you're lucky enough to find the right person. But Fromm says, nope, that's all wrong. Love isn't something you find, it's something you learn. It's an art. And just like any art, it takes real effort and practice. So let's really dig into this central idea. Why on earth do we treat love like winning the lottery instead of, say, learning to play the piano? Fromm argues it's because our entire approach is built on a few really common and really shaky assumptions. He points to three main culprits here. First, we get obsessed with making ourselves lovable. We focus all our energy on being loved instead of on the actual skill of how to love. Second, we assume the act of loving is easy. The hard part, we think, is just finding the right object for our affection. And finally, and this is a big one, we confuse that initial dizzying feeling of falling in love with the much deeper, more permanent state of standing in love. So what's Fromm's solution? Well, it's actually pretty simple, but it's totally profound. If love is an art, then we have to approach it like any other art form, whether it's medicine or painting. It's not magic. It just requires two things. You've got to master the theory, and you've got to master the practice. You have to understand what love actually is, and then you have to show up and do the work. Okay, so if love is the answer, then what is the fundamental question? What's the deep human problem that love is actually supposed to solve? Fromm thinks he's zeroed in on it. From Fromm, the absolute root of our deepest fears is the experience of separateness. It's that jarring awareness that we are individual beings, cut off from nature and from every other person. This feeling of being fundamentally alone, he says, is the source of all our anxiety. And he doesn't mince words about it. He calls this feeling of separateness an unbearable prison. And so our most powerful motivation, the thing that drives us more than anything else, is the desperate need to escape this prison and find some kind of union, to connect with others again. But how do we try to break out? Well, Fromm says that throughout history, we've come up with a few standard escape plans. The only problem is, they're all flawed. They don't actually work in the long run. And these flawed strategies, they probably sound pretty familiar. We might try to find a temporary escape in what he calls orgiastic states. These are intense but really brief experiences that help us forget ourselves. Or we try to find union by conforming, just blending in with the crowd and erasing everything that makes us different. And maybe the most common one today is just routine. We numb that deep anxiety with a predictable cycle of work and entertainment and distraction. So here's the bottom line. All of these things are just temporary fixes. They're band-aids. They might quiet down the anxiety for a little while, but they don't solve the core problem of our separateness. The only real, complete answer, Fromm says, is achieving a true interpersonal union. The full answer is love. This brings us to the core of the book, Fromm's idea of what he calls mature love. And for him, this is not some vague, fuzzy feeling. It's a disciplined art, and it's made up of very specific, active parts. First things first, he absolutely hammers this point home again and again. Love is an activity. It is not a passive feeling that just happens to you. It's a conscious choice, something you do. It's about standing in love, not falling for it. Getting this one shift in perspective is key to his whole argument. And from there, he gives this beautiful, almost paradoxical definition. Mature love is a union that, get this, preserves your individuality. It's a connection where, as he puts it, two beings become one and yet remain two. You don't get lost in the other person. You actually become more fully yourself through the connection. So, to make this practical, Fromm breaks the activity of loving down into four basic elements. Think of them as the four pillars that hold the whole thing up. They all work together. They are care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. First up, care. This one is the most fundamental. It's like Fromm says, you never believe someone who told you they love their flowers but then forgot to water them. It's common sense, right? Love means you are actively concerned for the life and the growth of the other person. If that's not there, it's not love. Next, we have responsibility. Now, he's really clear here. This is not about duty. It's not a chore. The word itself comes from the ability to respond. It's about a voluntary, willing readiness to respond to another person's needs, both the ones they say out loud and the ones they don't. Then there's respect. Respect is what keeps care and responsibility from turning into domination and control. The word literally means to look at. It's the ability to see a person for who they actually are, and to want them to grow and unfold for their own sake, not to fit into some box you've made for them. It means you aren't using them. And finally, knowledge. And we're not just talking about knowing their favorite movie here. This is a much deeper kind of knowing. It's the drive to understand the other person from the inside out, to penetrate to their very core. And Fromm says this kind of deep understanding is only possible through the act of love itself. So, if love is this incredible art that requires all these things, why does it feel so rare? Fromm has a pretty pointed answer for that. He argues that modern society itself actively works against our ability to truly love. Fromm's critique is, well, it's pretty brutal. He says that our consumer-driven society pushes us to treat everyone, including ourselves, like products. We assemble these personality packages. We make ourselves look good, sound smart, seem fun, and then we go to the personality market, hoping to make a good trade. But as he puts it, automatons cannot love. A real connection can't happen between two walking advertisements. And the result? Many relationships end up as what he calls an egoism à deux, which basically means a selfishness for two. It's not a real union. It's more like an alliance. Two people team up to protect themselves from a hostile, lonely world, and they mistake that shared fortress for real intimacy. And that leaves us with this huge, lingering question. In a world that's all about surfaces, transactions, and personality packages, how in the world do you practice the art of loving? Fromm's answer is that it has to be a conscious act of rebellion. It takes discipline, it takes concentration, and it takes faith, especially when the world around you is rewarding the exact opposite. It is, without a doubt, the hardest and most important art any of us will ever try to learn.